Well, it's good to see everyone here. This weekend at Winterfest was a great time. I always love going there. And it's just, to me, an amazing sound to hear 3,000 teens singing and praising God. I mean, I don't know if there's anything better except for maybe the little kids in Children's Bible Hour singing just as loud, too. But Perry, our pulpit minister, is out due to illness. So he came to me late in the week and asked if I would fill in. So I was glad to do that for him. And I want to say, just the title fits the way I feel. I love my church. I love South Yukon. And I can't believe it's been 10 years already. It's just, to me, has been flying by, and I look forward to many more to come. So this morning, let's talk about our church. Last week, we got together and were able to lay out a plan for 2020. So I couldn't help but come across an article of this little boy, Anthony Henderson. Back in 1991, he was 8 years old, and President George Herbert Walker Bush came to his school to read. So, as our president sat down and began to read, suddenly in the midst of this reading, little Anthony looks at him and goes, "Are you really the president?" Now, try to imagine you're the president, and you're there reading, and right in the middle of your reading, this little 8-year-old boy looks at you and goes, "Are you really who you say you are?" Well, George, the President Bush goes, "Well, of course I am." So he begins to pull out his billfold, and he brings out his driver's license, and he takes out his Visa card, and the little boy, as you can see, is looking at that Visa card or the American Express card, and the little boy just sat there questioning. And, President Bush goes, "Can't you not tell, by the black limousine that's out front?" And he pulled out pictures of his grandson and his grandchildren, his grandson who's playing baseball. And so finally, Mr. Bush goes, "I guess that's all I have, or maybe I'll just give you an autograph." And little Anthony goes, "Oh, no. Our teacher says we can't take autographs." So here in this USA Today clipping here back in 1991, you have little Anthony questioning the reality of President Bush. But brothers and sisters, it's getting harder and harder for sinners to come to our church. And do you know why? Because it's harder and harder for us to help the world to see the real us. In other words, the world is looking for proof that we are who we say we are. Just because we come here and sit in the church building every Sunday morning will not convince the world we're a bona fide Christian. Any more than the driver's license could convince little Anthony that was President Bush sitting right there next to him. But what's it going to take? Jesus gave us that answer in John chapter 13, verse 35. He says, "A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another, even as I have loved you, that you also love one another. By this, all men will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another." So when you read this, it's very easy for us to see that little word, 3-letter word, you, Y-O-U, as a singular word. But in reality, what Jesus was saying that night he was being betrayed of that Last Supper, he was looking at his disciples and he was saying, all y'all. And if you're from Northeast Arkansas and you've heard my mother speak, Ewans. That is y'all plus two. But Jesus is saying, all of you, love one another. And it's about wholeness. Jesus is saying to them, you love. We have to remember that when it comes to the eyes of Jesus, it's not about picking and choosing. There can be no holiness if there is no wholeness. Matter of fact, I think Peter wrote it the best. Having purified your souls by your obedience to the truth, that's what we've done. We've heard the gospel. We've responded to Jesus and said, yes, I want you as my Savior. I can't live this life in sin any longer. Cleanse me. Purify me. He says, you have purified your souls by your obedience to the truth for a sincere brotherly love. Love one another earnestly from a pure heart. Purity is wholeness. It's clean. It's holy. But see, when it comes to that love, it's our identity. It's not something we do once a week. Church is who we are. We've talked about this on a number of occasions. But I think we have come into our lifetime, and I think 2020 should be the beginning of our identification. All of us is the church. It's not the building. It's not the pews. It's each of us. And church cannot be done on an individual basis. Church is a community. It's who we are. And I cannot understand how someone can say, I don't like the church. Because in reality, the church is the bride of Christ. I've shared this with the men last Thursday night in our men's Bible study. That's one of the things we were talking about. We were talking about the church, how we can be the church, how we can help others see us as the church. But the first thing we need to recognize is that we are the bride of Christ. How many of you who are married and have children would like one of your children to come up to you and go, I don't like the bride? I can have a relationship with you, Dad, without the bride. And if we're the bride of Christ, how can we in the world take Christ, the husband, for granted? The church is the body of Christ, not just the bride, but the body. Paul tells us, but as it is, God arranged the members in the body, each one of them as he chose. So you can see that as you look to your left, to your right, behind you, in front of you, God placed each and every one of you in this community for his purpose. And God does not just arbitrarily place people in the body. He has a purpose and he has a desire. And one of the things that we are to do, we are to behave as a community. But when it comes to the body of Christ, becomes the bride of Christ, God has always related it, and he tried to help us understand that relationship of the church to Christ in a marriage. And not just a marriage, but a family. And so it's all about the relationship. God placed the church right where it's at. Right here in South Yukon, God placed this church, this community, so people can feel like they belong. That was one of the things that Jesus wanted the people of Israel to understand. And matter of fact, as he was approached by one of the synagogue rulers, Jairus, who had come to him, fallen on his knees, and says, "Come, heal my daughter." Well, as he was on his way, people are pressing in on Jesus. I mean, yes, I love the sound of 3,000 teens singing. But wow, try to walk through 3,000 teens. It's a whole different story. And I look for the quickest way out. I look for the path of least resistance to get away from that many people. And I can't even imagine how Jesus, people were pressing in on him where he was trying to get to a certain place to do some good. But while he was going, a woman came up behind him. Because she had it in her heart and in her mind that if she could just touch the fringe of his garment, she would be healed. She had been suffering for 12 years. 12 years with a blood disorder. A blood that would not stop flowing. And in the Jewish community, when you have a blood-flowing disease, you are considered unclean. You are removed from your family because your family or anyone around you touched anything that you sat on, they become unclean. She spent all her money, those 12 years, looking for doctors to help her heal. To no avail. None of them was able to do it. But until she heard Jesus was coming through, she touched the fringe of his garment, and then and there, she was healed. And of course, the people pressing in on Jesus, Jesus goes, "Someone just touched me." And Peter goes, "Lord?" "Yeah, not just one. There's a lot of them touching you. And you're questioning this?" And he goes, "No, no, no. Something even more important." So when he met the woman, she told him what happened. He looked at her and said, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Your faith has made you whole. Your faith has saved you." You see, what Jesus did for her, he reconnected her to her family, but also reconnected her to the community. That's what the church is for. It's for that connection. It's for that relationship. No one should ever be alone. And family is worth fighting for. It just doesn't make sense to me or anyone else why you would walk away from the family. But I'm here to tell you, my mom did that. Because someone said something to her, and she walked away. But luckily and graciously, prayerfully, she reconnected to the church family before she passed. when it comes to family. Go to Ephesians 5:20, not today, but look at Ephesians 5:22 through 33, and get an idea of what that looks like when it comes to the church and to Christ. What love is to look like. For I want you to know, Paul says, how great a struggle I have for you, and for those at Laodicea, and for all who have not seen me face to face, that their hearts may be encouraged, being knit together in love, to reach all the riches of full assurance of understanding and the knowledge of God's mystery, which is Christ, in whom are hidden all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge. Paul's writing to a church he's never met. He's also saying to the church that's in Laodicea, he's saying, you're worth fighting for. Don't walk away. Fight. And like one of the messages there at Winterfest this weekend, recognize what you're fighting for and who you're fighting against. I like what our Bible class teacher, Brother Joe, said to us this morning. We're all fighting against that very same Satan, who doesn't necessarily have to destroy us. All he has to do is distract us from our relationship with Christ. And I'm here to tell you, brothers and sisters, he's doing a real good job of distracting us. He's using the things of the world. He's using our own family members. He is using anything and everything just so we don't focus on Christ. He can keep us so busy that we will not pick up the Bible and read. He tells you, do that later. Get the remote and watch that movie. Get that remote and watch Netflix and binge on it for hours, because you're not going to be able to do this again. You need to do it right now. But you see, when it comes to this, when it comes to the church, Jesus said, by this all men will know. You can't fake it, because they're going to know that too. It's by what we do each and every day that tells others who we are and whose we are. People are amazing to watch in the public arena. And sadly, sometimes even the Christians, or who they say they're Christians, behave some of the worst ways in the public arena. John tells us, by this it is evident who are children of God and who are the children of the devil. Whoever does not practice righteousness is not of God, nor is of the devil, nor is the one who does not love his brother. For this is the message that you have heard from the beginning, that we should love one another. We should not be like Cain, who was of the evil one and murdered his brother. And why did he murder him? Because his own deeds were evil and his brother's righteous. Do not be surprised, brothers, that the world hates you. We know that we have passed out of death into life because we love the brothers. Whoever does not love abides in death. So what fingerprints do we leave behind? Everything we do, everything we touch, there's going to be a fingerprint somewhere. You can go to the back doors there on the door itself. You'll probably see so many handprints if you had the ability the technology. Even to the trays, the CSI agents could come in and pick up every fingerprint and could tell us who was there. But what difference? We live in a world that tells us to be different, to stand out, to be about ourselves. But God tells us to be different for His glory. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. The world and the culture has filled the souls with selfish ambition and has caused the soul to lose sight of its original owner. We got to stop looking at people from the outside. We need to start looking at people from the inside. Because it's that soul that belongs to God. And it is our responsibility to impact that life in such a way that that soul reconnects with its original owner, God. All our little friends, we have the responsibility to impact their life so that they understand that their life is about God. And it's about living for tomorrow. And I'm not talking about tomorrow, Monday. I'm talking tomorrow when it comes time when Jesus returns. I'm going to try to wrap this up rather quickly. The Hebrew writer tells us, let us consider how to stir one another to love and good works, not neglecting to meet together as the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near. What we do here, brothers and sisters, on Sunday mornings and Sunday nights and Wednesdays, we're coming together to give each of us the picture of what it's going to look like for all eternity. And what that picture is, that God is our focus. He is the center. We are gathering around. We are bringing our beliefs collectively to the one God who created us so that we can sing the songs of praises to Him and give Him thanksgiving for this opportunity. But if we're constantly going this way and that way, how can we come together collectively to offer up that praise to God and to encourage one another to stay focused on God? It's not about this life on earth. This life on earth is going to come to an end. And sadly, it has come to an end to so many before we even got to know them. So while we are here on this earth, let's come together for the sole purpose that we can encourage one another, or as the King James Version, spur one another on to love and good deeds. So let's start making a difference. Let's leave fingerprints that God has been here. And not just here, wherever we go. Remember, everything we do and everything we say, we are representing this community. So let's make 2020 what we have said last week. Sharing the love of Christ. But to do that, we have to become the church first. We have to start inside out. We have to make sure that we are loving one another, because that's what Jesus says. When you love one another, then all men will know that you are my disciples. So if South Yukon Church of Christ was to leave this earth, would Yukon community know that we were here? Would they be able to look and say, yes, that was a community, those were Christ followers? But the love that Jesus was saying, He had just washed their feet, and He's about to go to the cross. And He looks at His disciples and says, you see what I have just done for you? Now go and do for one another. Are you willing to lay it on the line for the one who's sitting next to you, in front of you, behind you? In the same manner that Christ did it for you? Because that's the love God is calling for us. That's the love Christ demonstrated for us. And that's the love that the community needs to see in us. So let's no longer walk out these doors and go, whew, okay, I got that done for the week. Let's go out these doors and say, boy, I can't wait to get back together again. Because I love my church. And I hope you all can walk away today knowing that you are part of that church. You are that family. And it's worth fighting for. It's worth laying it on the line. Because it's no longer about me. It's no longer about you. It's about us. We are the bride of Christ. When Christ comes back, he's coming back for his bride. And if you've walked away, when he comes back, where are you going to be? If there's anything we can do for you this morning, come while we stand and sing.